Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. Lately, Emily had been different, distant and distracted, her laughter forced, her smiles fleeting. I watched her from across the breakfast table, noticing how her fingers trembled slightly as she held her coffee mug. I remembered the soft, muffled sobs I'd heard through the darkness of our bedroom, thinking I was asleep. Concern gnawed at me, a constant companion in recent weeks. "Honey, is everything okay?" I asked as gently as I could, pushing the morning paper aside. She looked up, her eyes momentarily wide as if caught off guard. "Yes, of course, why do you ask?" Her voice was a little too casual, her smile a bit too quick. "It's just, you seem a bit off these days. Is there anything bothering you?" Emily shook her head, her blonde hair cascading around her shoulders. "It's just work, you know. The usual stress." She stood up swiftly, planting a quick kiss on my cheek. "Don't worry about me." But I did worry. At night, lying beside her, I heard the quiet tears again. The urge to comfort her was overwhelming, yet something held me back. What if she didn't want me to see her like this? The distance between us felt like a chasm now. One evening, as Emily showered, a ping from her phone shattered the silence of our room. Driven by a mixture of concern and something darker, I hesitated only briefly before picking it up. The message on the screen was like a punch to the gut. "I miss you so much. Why can't we just be together?" The world tilted. A lover? My heart raced as I scrolled through more messages, each one a blade twisting deeper into my chest. Betrayal seared through me, hot and blinding. When Emily returned, wrapped in her bathrobe, her hair damp, I confronted her. "Who is he, Emily?" Her face went pale, her eyes widening in shock. I can explain," she stammered, but I didn't want to hear lies. "No need. I've seen everything." I threw the phone at her feet, the screen lighting up with another incoming message. "We're done." The next weeks were a blur of shouting, tears, and long, sleepless nights. Our home became a battleground, every conversation a grenade. The decision to divorce was a mutual destruction pact, signed and sealed before we even knew what hit us. On the day she moved out, our house stripped bare, memories packed away in boxes, I watched her car disappear down the driveway. A part of me wanted to run after her, to scream, to reconcile, but it was too late. The damage was done. Our love, once vibrant and full of promise, had been reduced to ashes. As the dust settled, a cold determination took root in my heart. I would start anew, rebuild from the ruins of our marriage. Emily had chosen her path, and I, reluctantly, chose mine. But as the sun set, casting long shadows across the empty rooms, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What secrets had Emily hidden behind her tear-stained pillows? Who was the man that had shattered our lives? And how far was I willing to go to uncover the truth? A chill autumn wind sweeps through the city as I walk the familiar streets, now feeling alien without Emily by my side. The leaves, painted with the fires of fall, rustle underfoot as I make my way to the cafe where I'm meeting Mark, an old friend and the closest thing I have to a confidant these days. Mark waves from a corner booth, his face etched with concern. He's seen me through my best and worst, and now, he's about to dive into the murky waters of my broken marriage. "Mike, how are you holding up?" he asks as I slide into the booth. "I've been better," I admit, forcing a smile. "But I need to find out what really happened. I can't move on otherwise." Mark nods, sipping his coffee. "What's the plan?" "I need to find out who he is," I say, my voice a mix of resolve and bitterness. "The guy she was messaging." "I've got nothing but a number and a few scattered texts." "Have you thought about hiring a private investigator?" Mark suggests, raising an eyebrow. It crossed my mind, but I want to do this myself, at least for now. I need to be involved, to see it through. Mark leans back, considering. Alright, let's start with what you have. Give me the number, I have a friend in tech who might help us trace it. Grateful, I jot down the number and hand it over. Mark quickly sends a message from his phone, and we fall into a heavy silence, waiting. The cafe door opens, letting in a blast of cold air and a figure that stops dead when he sees me. It's Eric, Emily's brother. His face is a mask of surprise mixed with something darker, disdain, perhaps. Mike? What are you doing here? Eric approaches, his hands deep in his coat pockets. Just catching up with a friend, I reply coolly, my guard up instantly. Eric's gaze flickers to Mark, then back to me. I heard about the divorce. Tough break. His tone suggests anything but sympathy, and something about his demeanor irks me. Yeah, well, life goes on. If you ever talk to Emily, he starts, then pauses, choosing his words. Just remember, there's always more to a story, Mike. Before I can press him, his phone rings. He glances at the caller ID, frowns, and steps away to take the call. His hushed tones buzz at the edge of my hearing, but the words are lost in the din of the cafe. Mark's phone buzzes then, breaking the tension. He checks it, a look of surprise crossing his face. Got something. The number's registered to a David Miller, but it's a burner. Still, there's an address linked to the purchase. Where? I ask, urgency spiking through me. Just on the outskirts of the city. A small apartment complex. Mark shows me the address on his phone. Let's check it out, I suggest, more to avoid another awkward encounter with Eric than anything else. We leave the cafe, stepping into the brisk evening. The address takes us to a nondescript building, the kind of place that promises anonymity, perfect for secret rendezvous. As we approach, I can't help but feel the pull of the unknown. What will we find? Answers or more questions? Either way, I'm determined to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The building looms ahead, its facade nondescript, blending into the twilight shadows of the city outskirts. Mark and I exchange a glance, our resolve mingling with apprehension, before ascending the cracked concrete steps to the entrance. The lobby is dimly lit, the only light a flickering bulb that casts long shadows across the peeling wallpaper. We find the apartment number linked to David Miller on the third floor, down a narrow, musty hallway that seems barely touched by time, or cleaning supplies. I'll do the talking, I whisper to Mark as we pause before the door, my heart pounding a fierce rhythm against my ribs. He nods, and I raise my hand, knocking firmly. The door swings open sooner than expected, revealing a man in his late 30s, his hair unkempt, his eyes wary. Can I help you? He asks, his gaze flicking between us. I hope so, I begin, trying to keep my voice steady. Are you David Miller? The man hesitates, then nods slightly. That's me. What's this about? We have a few questions about Emily Henderson. We believe you've been in contact with her. I watch his reaction closely, searching for any sign of recognition or guilt. David's face remains impassive, but there's a flicker in his eyes, a brief, darting fear. I don't know any Emily Henderson. The denial is too quick, too rehearsed. I push the door gently, stepping into the threshold. Maybe you'd remember better if we talked inside. David backs away as we enter, his movements betraying his nervousness. The apartment is sparsely furnished, a single lamp casting a weak glow over the worn sofa and a small kitchenette. Mark closes the door behind us, and I turn back to David. Look, we found your number in her messages. We know there's something going on. We just want to understand. David runs a hand through his hair, then sighs, his shoulders slumping. Okay. I did know Emily, but it's not what you think. Then what is it? Mark asks, his tone gentle, trying to coax more out of him. She was worried about someone. Scared, even. She came to me because she thought I could help, David confesses, his gaze dropping to the floor. Help? Help with what? I probe, a cold sense of dread creeping up my spine. She thought she was being followed, watched. Someone from her past, maybe. I just gave her some advice, that's all. Did she tell you who it was? Mark steps forward, his interest piqued. No, she was vague about it. Scared to even say much. Look, I didn't want to get too involved. I just felt sorry for her. I exchange a look with Mark, both of us processing the new angle. Do you have any proof of this? Anything that could help us figure out what's going on? I ask, hoping for something more concrete. David hesitates, then walks over to a drawer and pulls out a small, crumpled piece of paper. He hands it to me. This is the last note she gave me. Said if anything happened to her, to look into it. Unfolding the paper, I see a hastily scrawled address and a name. The handwriting is unmistakably Emily's, the strokes sharp with urgency. We need to check this out, I say to Mark, a plan forming in my mind. Let's go then, Mark agrees, his determination matching mine. We leave David's apartment with more questions than answers, but with a new lead that could unravel the mystery surrounding Emily's distress. As we step out into the cool night air, the weight of our discovery settles over us, pushing us deeper into the heart of a story more complex than either of us had imagined. The address leads us to an old industrial part of the city, where the buildings stand like silent, forgotten giants in the dim light of the setting sun. Mark and I park the car and approach the address on Emily's note, a derelict warehouse that seems to creak with the weight of secrets. This is it? Mark asks, his voice echoing slightly in the open, desolate space. Yeah, this matches the address, I confirm, feeling a knot of apprehension tighten in my stomach. We proceed with caution, the gravel crunching under our shoes as we move toward the main entrance. The door is unlocked, swinging open with a haunting squeal that sends a shiver down my spine. Inside, the warehouse is vast and shadowy, beams of dying light piercing through broken windows, casting long shadows. We split up to search the area more quickly. My heart races as I navigate through the piles of discarded equipment and stacks of moldy boxes. Suddenly, a soft noise, the unmistakable sound of a whisper, stops me dead in my tracks. Creeping toward the sound, I peer around a corner and see two figures in the shadows. One of them is unmistakably Emily, her profile illuminated by the faint light. The other figure is a man, unfamiliar, with a harsh whisper that carries across the silent space. You shouldn't have come here, Emily, the man hisses, his tone menacing. I had to know if you were telling the truth, Emily replies, her voice trembling. You've lied about everything. My brother, my husband. What were you trying to do? I step out from my hiding spot, unable to contain my anger any longer. Emily. Both heads snap in my direction, and Emily's face crumples with shock and fear. Mike. What is going on, Emily? Who is this? I demand, pointing at the unknown man. The man steps forward, a cold smile playing on his lips. I suppose it's time for the truth then. My name is Alex. I was hired by your brother, Eric, to stir trouble. He wanted Emily for himself, hated how close you two were. I turn to Emily, my mind reeling. Is this true? Did you know? Emily shakes her head, tears streaming down her face. I didn't know who he was at first. He lied, said he was an old friend in trouble. I thought I was helping. Helping? By cheating on me? My voice breaks with the weight of betrayal. It wasn't like that. Emily cries. When I realized his intentions, I tried to end it. I was going to tell you everything tonight. Alex laughs, a sound that fills the empty space with malice. What a touching reunion. Too bad it won't matter. Before I can react, Mark charges out from his hiding spot, tackling Alex to the ground. A scuffle ensues, and I rush to help, my anger fueling my strength. Together, Mark and I subdue Alex, but the damage is done. Standing over the restrained figure of Alex, Mark calls the police while I face Emily. Her eyes are full of sorrow and regret, but the gulf between us has grown too wide, the trust irreparably shattered. "We're over, Emily," I say, the words hollow but necessary. "I can't be with someone I don't trust, no matter the reasons." Emily nods, her tears flowing freely. "I understand, Mike. I'm so sorry." The police arrive, taking Alex into custody as he spits curses. Emily and I watch as he's led away, the final chapter of our life together closing with the clink of handcuffs. As I walk away from the warehouse, the cool night air feels like a balm on my heated skin. Mark claps a hand on my shoulder, a silent show of support. I look back once, seeing Emily standing alone in the fading light, a figure marred by deception and sorrow. The drive home is silent, a reflection of the emptiness inside me. Hatred for the betrayal, for the lies, consumes the remnants of what I once felt for Emily. The love I had cherished now turned to ash, swept away by the harsh winds of treachery.